guys, welcome back to the Human Condition. This video is another video in our astrology series, and this is title of this video I think is what does it mean to be a Pisces moon? So this is the final sign in our series for the moon signs. So a Pisces moon means basically, like on a lot of my videos and my previous videos, I talked about how there's an emotional maturity scale, not for the signs, not necessarily like maturity as in how much like matured like you are, but how based on how self-oriented you are on the lower end, 1 through 6, and other oriented 7 through 12. And it doesn't mean necessarily selfish, it just means you focus on yourself more first and then others, or typically, and then from 7 to 12, it's more other oriented. So Pisces is number 12, top dog, on the very end of the all the signs, number 12 is the highest emotional maturity, which is kind of ironic because typically Pisces moons have the reputation of sometimes being potentially immature. However, I feel like it kind of blends together. For example, some Pisces moons presents an image of immaturity, but behind that immaturity is actually a very mature person kind of playing a persona. So yeah. So one thing with moon in Pisces, this is a pretty good sign, because moon in Pisces represents past, home, and family, comfort, like talked about in other videos, and emotions. And it's in the sign of Pisces, which is another water sign. Moon is most comfortable in Cancer, which is a moon sign, which is a water sign. So Pisces is a water sign, and so it gets along pretty well. So moon in Pisces represents self-sacrifice and self-isolation. It's going to kind of sound intense, but it just means these people feel more comfortable typically either being by themselves or being very empathetic and giving up their own needs for other people. So these are one of the most empathetic and probably most humblest like signs, or at least the most empathetic at least signs. And they're most empathetic. They're very caring. They get along with Cancer because Cancer is a sign of personal emotion, right? Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces are all water signs. So Cancer, it gets along with Cancer pretty well because Cancer is personal emotion, whereas Pisces represents universal emotion. So it represents how they think about how their actions affect other people's feelings often, and not only that, but how other people's actions affect the greater good of the emotional environment. So pretty important, pretty lit sign. It's a sign that is very caring and very empathetic. So when you put Cancer, the personal emotion, with Pisces of empathy, right, and universal emotions, it is positive for the most part because Pisces feeds off Cancer's energy and kind of reciprocates it. So iconic duo. However, the only downside is if Cancer's like really worked up about something and angry, Pisces is not the good at calming Cancer. They might actually be like, hey, you're right. And they start like getting angry with Cancer and kind of acting out, potentially, because they're not necessarily the calming down type. They're very emotion based. So still sort of chaotic, like Scorpio. I'd say almost as chaotic as Scorpio, but not quite as calm and chill as Cancer. But they're still very sympathetic and also sign. So this being said, their dynamic with Cancer is to be there for them and take care of them emotionally, and sympathize with them and empathize with them. Dynamic with Scorpio is a little bit different. I feel like I talked about this in a previous video, probably my Scorpio moon. Scorpio is about chaos, or kind of like I talk about them as kind of like the chaos agent, And it's not because they want to cause chaos, it's because they're an interpersonal sign of emotion, meaning they want to get to the root of how people feel. And a lot of times, causing chaos is the only way, or people expressing how they feel deeply all the time will always cause some sort of chaos. And that's why Scorpio is associated with chaos. It's not necessarily that they want to cause chaos, but they want to understand how people feel individually, one on one, almost all the time. And this can always cause more arguments rather than, like, for example, Taurus, who kind of keeps the peace by avoiding the hard, tough conversations sometimes. So Scorpio is about having those deep, tough conversations a lot of times. So when Scorpio and Pisces interact, Scorpio causes chaos, and Pisces the sign of self-sacrifice, self-isolation, or empathy. For that being said, so a lot of times, Scorpio might cause a little trouble sometimes, and Pisces will take the blame, or have to take the blame a lot of the time, and that's kind of the dynamic between Scorpio and Pisces. So it's kind of a tough dynamic, more tough than Cancer and Scorpio, and more tough than Cancer and Pisces. But I guess that's just, Pisces is so caring, they'll sometimes take on the burden of the responsibility sometimes. So yeah, that's an example of how Pisces and the water signs interact with each other. What signs conflict with Pisces? You got Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo. And typically, from this group, Pisces gets aggravated by Sagittarius, because I kind of like talk about this in the Sagittarius video. Sagittarius is brutal honesty, bluntness, and Pisces take into consideration not only how they feel, but how everyone feels. So sometimes Pisces might get annoyed by the lack of not only being brutally honest, but not opening up emotionally, whereas Cancer would. They feel like they can't reach Sagittarius, or Leo for that matter, but mainly Sagittarius as a fire sign. So they will kind of get aggravated by Sagittarius because they're kind of like, their brutal bluntness can, hurt the feelings of people sometimes, I guess, and kind of rub off on people the wrong way. Sagittarius moon's brutal honesty sometimes. Not just Pisces. It might bother Pisces a little bit, but it's more so because since it's the universal emotion sign, taking into consideration how other people might react. Specifically like Cancer. Cancer, since it's a personal emotion might actually kind of react more to it than Pisces. But Pisces gets more aggravated by it. Yeah, the brutal honesty can sometimes feel like, dang, that was harsh. Pisces might be like, dang, that was harsh. And Sagittarius is like, I'm just speaking facts, bro. And Pisces, Virgo are opposites. So like in my other videos, opposites attract, but they also are very different and conflict. So Virgo's the work ethic. It's interpersonal earth sign. So it's work ethic. I'm going to give this to you, you owe me type thing with Virgo. Pisces is the exact opposite. It's more like, I will do this for you, you don't even owe me type of thing. And that's the pool there. So Virgo and Pisces might sometimes struggle because they're so idealistic and imaginative. Like their imagination's very, very strong. So they might lack realisticness sometimes. They might have a hard time with the workforce, like which Virgo represents. So the dynamics of Virgo can help them get jobs, maybe potentially, and help them develop a strong work ethic, whereas Pisces can positively bring out the idealistic, imaginative side of Virgo's strict routine and work ethic, because Virgo is very routine-oriented work ethic, and not even if don't have a work ethic, they're very strict on what they have to do. So Pisces brings out the imaginative, peace-loving, go with the flow, and Virgo brings out the hard work and determination in Pisces. However, there's still aggravation a little bit because they're very different. And then Pisces and Gemini. Gemini wants to connect people on a communicative, logic-based level with the mind. Pisces want to connect with them on an emotion-based level, logic kind of versus emotion. So Pisces is actually known as a sign that doesn't talk a ton. The only time they talk is when they're emotionally connecting with people, and they're emotionally expressive, not and receptive, not verbally. So Gemini might be aggravated by the lack of communication they feel like, and understanding of Pisces. And Pisces is a sign that is kind of hard to understand because of their so emotional depth and being the 12th, one of the most emotionally mature, but not always appear that way. So Gemini might be annoyed by the lack of communication sometimes they receive from Pisces, and they feel like they can't reach them and understand them. And Gemini moon wants to do that with everyone, talking, I get to understand every person they meet. But with Pisces, they're more go with the flow, more vibing. So vibe. So that aggravation there comes with Gemini and Pisces. And all four of those I just said are mutable signs, meaning changeable. Unlike Cardinal, like Aries, the initiators, fixed, the stabilizers, mutable signs, aka like Pisces, mean they're initiated, they can be initiator and fixed, aka stubborn, when they want to be, which is mutable signs are a good balance. They can start things, but they can also not start things. Like they can be the fixed signs and the cardinal signs kind of combined. Initiators when they have to be, and fixed on something when they have to be. So that's a dynamic between Gemini and Pisces. Also, briefly touching on how Pisces sometimes gets aggravated with Leo. Leo wants to express themselves and have other people express themselves. Pisces doesn't feel like comfortable expressing themselves unless it's emotional, in an emotional way. So the aggravation is Leo might express themselves so much that, again, like the emotion thing, right? The feelings, but also because Pisces doesn't feel like expressing who they are. They're kind of like secretive about that. They just want to express how they feel and get to understand how you feel, type of thing. So yeah. And then personal observations like I do in my other videos. Pisces moon's kind of like my Sagittarius moon. I talked about some controversial people. I like them or dislike them. I'm not going to say how I feel, not big enough to be a controversial YouTuber yet. But I said Pisces moons are like, since they're like 12, like Sagittarius appear to be like the leader of the world, kind of. Whereas 10, 11, 12, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces are kind of like the people behind the scenes. And it's ironic because Pisces and Sagittarius is a square aspect, meaning they always hang out, kind of, even though they don't get along all the time. So with this, you see a lot of people, like I talked about in my Sagittarius video, have people help them that behind the scenes that are Pisces. For example, again, like them or dislike them. I'm not gonna say my opinion on these controversial people, but for example, like Andrew Tate, they give off this Trump, and they give off this energy of being the leader, so they often become leaders. But 10, 11, 12 actually hide behind the scenes, are actually in control, kind of. And so with Andrew Tate, it'd be like Aiden Ross kind of helped him in a way. Not that he already was self-made, but he helped him a little bit by having him on his platform behind the scenes. And in the current administration, there's a guy named Peter Navarro, I think, who's a Pisces moon. So, and he might be secretly working behind the scenes, but I don't know. That's his opinion. Could be wrong. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. However, yeah. In conclusion, Pisces moons are empathetic, take the blame a lot. Oh, negative trait about Pisces moon, they're positives, they're empathetic, humble most of the time, um, give up a lot. Negatively, they can be self-pitying because of the like giving up a lot, self-pitying, um, and they might take the burden a lot of other people's responsibilities on themselves and have to deal with all that responsibility. So yeah, this is what does it mean to be a Pisces moon? Let me know down below if you guys like these. This is my astrology series, because based on my other content, you guys seem to like the other content more. But if you guys do like this my astrology videos, I'll definitely keep doing them. But let me know down below if I should continue doing them or just focus more on the other aspects of the human condition more often. So yeah, as always, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.